We'll do a couple push-ups and then jam out to Master Puppets and we'll be ready for the show.
Yeah.
So welcome back to Suspicious Minds. I am Burl.
And I'm Wade.
And I think we're a couple of Elvis fans, plainclothes division, I think is how you would describe us.
Sure.
And the reason I bring that up is because of our topic today, which is the new-ish Elvis cartoon, Agent Elvis, which is what we're doing today.
Oh, boy.
I know you're thrilled, Wade. I know you were really looking forward to this one.
Sure. Yes. Do you have any background about this show, how it got started, what the deal is with Agent Elvis?
Well, I know that it was created by a guy named John Eddy, who's a musician. Is he a Jersey guy? Is that the thing?
I believe so. The name John Eddy, it's like one of those kind of like, just such regular, anonymous-sounding names that sounded vaguely familiar. I'm like, John Eddy, who do I know this guy from? Had to look it up. John Eddy is a musician, kind of an aspiring pop rocker from the mid-'80s. I guess I shouldn't say aspiring because, he actually did have a single that charted on the Hot 100 by the name of Jungle Boy from 1986. And it's like one of those, I looked it up and I listened to it and I'm like, yep, I've definitely never heard this one before.
But the band that he had together for that was part of Bruce Springsteen's band. A couple of people from that, like Max Weinberg, all that,
sure.
Correct? Yeah.
There is some sort of weird John Eddy, Bruce Springsteen connection that I can't find any additional information about. But there is a live video of him performing Jungle Boy at Giant Stadium in 1986. You will know G.E. Smith on guitar of SNL and also of the Daryl Hall and John Oates band and 100 other things. And good old Max Weinberg on drums, just like ringers, total pros. And it's like backing up John Eddy, just this kind of...
He's like a club musician who kind of almost got there and then just for some reason it didn't kind of pan out, which happens in the music business.
It does.
So.
It does. Moving more into the behind-the-scenes stuff after that, as far as I understand, just like maybe 2 more albums after his initial album came out. And somehow he hooked up with none other than Priscilla Presley to create Agent Elvis. It was originally announced as a show called Agent King in 2019. There was like, hey, watch for this, coming soon to Netflix. And it did not come out until March of 2023, which I'm just going to go ahead and say that, there's like the pandemic, which happened during 2019 and 2023. I mean, which delayed everything and various other reasons why it might have had a delay that we can get into later. But just initial thoughts on Agent Elvis. Like, if you were to describe it with one word, what would you use?
With one word? Oh, man. I don't think soporific would really do it. Maybe I won't do one word, but what I will say is that it is something that's trying to go a bunch of different directions at once. Is there a word for that?
Schizophrenic?
Okay, there you go. Maybe a little schizophrenic then. But that's what it feels like to me. It feels like this multi-headed being that doesn't know which head is controlling it. Mm-hmm. So that's how I'd kind of describe it.
Well, I asked you to use one word because right here at the top of my notes, I just have written down,
Well, is that really one word, though? Is it a word?
It's a lot of U's, a lot of G's, a lot of H's. Just,
Yeah, all your favorite letters.
Right,
all there together, kind of put together in one expression.
Which it took me, I don't know, I'm going to say about 90 seconds into the first episode to determine this show is dog shit.
I think you had a stronger reaction. I will say, we've talked about this off air a little bit, that it's not for diehard Elvis fans. I think it's for people who know a little bit about Elvis, may have heard a couple songs, and then it's just something to sort of keep him in the public interest and to keep kind of his image alive. But I agree it does a very poor job of what it's ever the hell it's trying to do, because it just doesn't seem to. And here's the thing, I wanted to like it so bad. They have so many elements, and I think what we should do is, before we go off the deep end and do all of this describing it with the expression I think we should talk about the things that it did right. So it did do some things right. We should start there. So I will say a couple of good things about it. I think the animation itself is pretty good. I like the look of it. And one of the things they did, they picked the exact era of Elvis that I like.
Sure, like your
Like
68,
late
69,
60s.
70,
Yeah.
71, right.
That is exactly when you want to be an Elvis fan. They're like I think the music he was putting out at that point, he was done with all the movies, or just about done with the movies. He had done the 68 special, the comeback special, the Hey Elvis, come back. And it was like the comeback special to Aloha kind of era. Like that is just right in my wheelhouse. So I really dug that. The fact that they used the Stutz Blackhawk as his main get-around car,
Of course.
they kind of messed it up a little bit because I think they made it a four-door, but, I'm willing to forgive that.
Sure.
Let's see. And I think they have so many talented and amazing voice actors working for them, or just actors in general. And what's weird is I didn't think I would like Matthew McConaughey as Elvis, but it kind of worked. I mean, it's not right. It's not the right voice, but it didn't bother me in this. So, and they got Priscilla to be her own voice in it.
Well, she's like co-creator. I don't know, executive producer, probably. Just Priscilla's latest attempt to keep Elvis relevant for a younger generation. It
Right.
makes me think of those remixes of like A Little Less Conversation 15 years ago or whenever that was, which I don't know if that made any new Elvis fans. Probably not. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Who the hell
I don't know.
knows?
Could have. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything that I can say positively about this show is just the main concept of Elvis being like some sort of officially sanctioned agent fighting crime. Well, this episode may be out by the time that our episode's out, but Elvis Book Club, we talked about this.
Our good
if
friends
you-
Pat and Brad over at Elvis
Pat and
Book
Brad,
Club.
which probably one of the finest Elvis podcasts going today.
It's better than this one.
They write a lot more notes than we do. But we had the segment one time. We did a team-up episode. What is this, a crossover episode?
Yeah, it was a crossover.
And which we tried to conceive of either a Elvis TV show or an Elvis comic book. Like, how would you adapt Elvis to like one of these things? And this was a couple of years when we did this. And I think we got pretty close to this general concept of Elvis as like the secret crime fighter. So conceptually, it's not bad. But then again, there's a lot of things conceptually which ended up being horrible ideas that like still work for me. Like if somebody were to ask me right now, what do you think of Halle Berry playing Catwoman? I would be like, you know what? That sounds like a great idea still.
It does. It does sound like a good idea.
Or like, what if we sunk a lot of money into making John Carter of Mars into a movie? I'd be like, that sounds awesome. And then
I agree with that.
And then,
What
of course,
if Pepsi was colorless? It was just crystal Pepsi.
Sure. Or what if that I Can't Drive 55 guy fronted Van Halen?
Here's one. You'll like this one. What if we got rid of two members of Kiss
Right.
and then got two different guys?
Right. Two guys that actually wanted to
just
be
put them in
there.
different makeup.
Sure.
Yeah. No, actually, I think that's one of those conceptually I would hate that. I don't know if I would like the idea of the I Can't Drive 55 guy. We may have gone a little far afield here, but I get what you're saying.
Right.
I think maybe we'll just edit where was talking about Crystal Pepsi. Because all
Sure.
those things, including that, are all really great ideas.
But, if Crystal Pepsi was a band, it would be Van Hagar.
Ooh, you don't think it'd be Van Halen 3? Is this the first time we brought up Sharon on the show? Can't be.
Oh, man.
If it is,
Did you just Sharon me?
I would never Sharon you. Not on this show.
Man, I think I
Only-
just got Sharoned.
Only through text message.
God damn it. So, like we're saying, Scylla somehow hooks up with John Eddy, the Jungle Boy, and they got this concept for the show and they put it together. And I'm thinking like, because it's like a hard R, like a rated R show. Do you have like female nudity? There's been plenty of male nudity, weirdly enough, on this show. F-bombs, like guys getting shot in the face, drug use, blah, blah, blah. Has there been the boobs?
Oh, maybe not. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it's just all full Monty stuff.
Well, once again, that's appealing to the younger generation. Seem to be like uncomfortable with female nudity, but extremely comfortable with male nudity, which is like the inverse of like when we were growing up.
That's true. That's
Not saying it's
true.
a bad thing, just an observation.
You were talking about this. I don't mind the gore. The gore is actually kind of okay. But the thing is, there's not a lot to balance it out with. So it seems sort of like needless gore. And speaking of gore, and the reason I bring this up is because they do bring up, in I believe it's the first episode, Herschel Gordon Lewis. So I got to give my hats off to them for that.
Yeah. First episode, the like Manson family thing, which, you know, you mentioned earlier, or maybe this is before we started recording, how it's supposed to be several different things at the same time. One of which I had no idea how influential Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was going to end up being, the Tarantino film. But was that a huge hit or something? I mean, I did see it and kind of like, all right, on to the next thing. But it seems like people won't let that fucking movie go, man.
People certainly love it. And is it his last movie? Is it the last movie he's doing?
No, he's got another one coming out.
Well, then that's it. Then he's calling it quits.
That's what he says.
Okay, we'll see. I bet he doesn't. I bet he comes back. I bet he's done for like 5 years, and he gets bored and he comes back with something else.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, people do love that movie. And I think there's always the idea of like having, especially in the first episode, this Manson family connection. It seems like it would be a good kind of crossover thing because this is something happening with Elvis. He would have been in LA at the time or close to the time that these things were happening. But it just feels so much like the Tarantino movie that it doesn't feel like the cartoon. Right? It's like, oh, well, they're just ripping this thing off. And so that's what it kind of starts feeling like in the show is you're just seeing literally them, okay, well, this is this, and this is sort of a Forrest Gump thing. This is sort of a Tarantino thing. This is sort of Archer, the cartoon Archer.
As I understand, Agent Elvis and Archer share a showrunner?
Yeah, Mike Arnold. Mike Arnold is the guy.
That sounds made up.
It does. Maybe related to Eddie Arnold.
Sure.
Maybe.
Or maybe related to John Eddie.
See, there you go. Man. Yeah, there you go.
That doesn't make any sense, but yeah.
Maybe they're cousins.
Yeah.
They're like twice removed or something.
But you're talking about the first episode with Manson and whatnot, which is really weird, you know, because you have a resource like Priscilla as co-creator, and I'm guessing some sort of producing credit, also a part of the voice cast. And it's like, there could be no better insight into the Manson phenomenon, which, of course, you know, when the murders went down, Elvis, his LA home was not that far from that. And also, one of the people murdered was Jay Sebring, who was the former employer of his hairdresser, Larry Geller. And so he had a 1 degree of separation from the Manson murders. And this show just can't even be bothered to mix reality and fantasy in that way. It's simultaneously like trying too hard and impossibly lazy.
And I think that's what gets you, right? Is that you're like, man, you're so close to having something really good here. Like you could put these elements in from his life or something about this. But I don't know, maybe they want to keep the Elvis part separate. I don't know. Like Elvis is just the image of Elvis. And then to give too much backstory would just, maybe they would think that's too confusing. Or maybe the people who are writing it probably just didn't do their homework on it. They're like, oh, we'll just do this and this. Like they just have the cartoon image. And they're like, well, we're only interested in selling it as this. Like we don't want to bring in that much backstory. But then they have Priscilla in, they have Lisa Marie, there's Graceland. So how much are you going to leave out and how much you're going to put in? And I guess the bare minimum is basically what you get. Just the 4 things people know about him. You know, it's Graceland, Lisa Marie, Priscilla, and then apparently Scatter. That's it. That's, you know, the monkey.
Right. And guns and drugs. But all the drugs being done by not Elvis, being done by the monkey.
But I think that's the thing. I think they just kind of pushed all of the bad habits of Elvis into the character of Scatter. And it's just sort of like the Memphis Mafia. Instead of having just any of those characters, they just created pretty much just, what's his name, Bobby Ray or Billy Ray. So that kind of becomes that character, but not quite. I don't know.
Yeah, it's wild. Pretty early on in the series where, Elvis explains Bobby Ray's significance to him and all that. And at first I was thinking like, oh, well, this, I guess, is going to be a composite character for the entirety of the Memphis Mafia. But in the universe of the show, the Memphis Mafia still exists. They're mentioned by name. And like Bobby Ray's like, maybe someday I'll become a member. And Elvis is like, keep dreaming, asshole, or whatever. The kind of like lazy writing that this show has. Just bizarre that not a single member of the Memphis Mafia is shown. Well, we should preface this by saying we only watched the first 5 episodes. So anything that happens after the first 5 episodes, we're not going to know about. Maybe we'll go back and if we can like find the strength within ourselves to finish this series, we can like check it out and do another episode.
If it gets picked up for a second season, I think we have to finish it. If it gets canceled, then we could make that determination as just sort of maybe we could just do like a side bar about it. Like, hey, we watched the other episodes and here's what we thought. I don't know. We could probably squeeze a whole episode of the second. And here's the reason. I'm really upset because Chris Elliott is in the second half of the season, and I didn't get to see that because he does play Timothy Leary, I think.
Yeah.
And, I'm a big fan, so...
Oh, me too.
So, Chris Elliott, if you're out there, I apologize I didn't get to your episodes yet. So, if you're listening.
And Chris Elliott, if you'd like to be a guest on Suspicious Minds, we have an open invitation.
And now you got stuff to talk about because you are on an Elvis-related project. So, we will just do your episodes. We will just talk about those Timothy Leary episodes if you come on.
Sure. And also that invitation extends to Martin Short, who's just delightful.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to talk about Elvis at all.
No, he can talk about whatever he wants.
Maybe the best Canadian? The best living Canadian?
Ooh, best living Canadian. I'd have to think about that for a second. What about Geddy Lee?
He's pretty good. I like him. Like any of the members of Rush. He's also welcome to come on.
We'll circle back to this. Best living Canadian. Wow. Yeah. That's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd.
I didn't mean to spring that on you. But here's the thing. I think since they're Canadian, and this is not to just say that all Canadians are like or anything, but I think any of the members of Rush, so Alex and Geddy, I think they would both say, no, it's Martin Short. And Martin Short would probably not say that he was the best living Canadian.
That is a distinctly Canadian attitude to have, I think.
So, yeah.
Right. Is to not even consider yourself possibly the best Canadian. It's like, no, certainly someone else, not me.
There's probably like somebody who lives down the street from me. He's like, oh no, George down the street, much nicer Canadian than me.
So the fact that Scylla, and is Scylla on more episodes than just one? I mean,
she's on another one later on where they're sitting on the couch together or something. I don't remember which episode that's in, but it's after the first. But she's only very briefly in the first episode, like right at the end.
Well, it got me curious to look up. It's like, well, Priscilla, she transitioned into acting in the late 70s, early 80s, and I just had to look it up. How many acting credits does she really have? And I was looking at it, and it's like, she did one episode of The Fall Guy. She did a TV movie with Michael Landon called Love is Forever, which is like the most TV movie title and co-star I could possibly imagine.
Wow, yeah. Especially back then.
Oh, yeah. But she's like fifth billed. She's not even like the co-star to Michael Landon. And then, of course, she was on Dallas, and I had to double check this. It said Dallas, 144 episodes. And I'm like, wow, Dallas ran for 144 episodes? No. Priscilla is on 144 episodes. Dallas ran for like 400 something.
Wow. How many years is that? That's a lot. That's like...
God, I don't know, man.
8-9 years, something like that?
Yeah. It's a lot for a show I've never seen a single episode of. But
I remember the intro to it.
I do too, because that used to come on after a show that I would watch back then. And as soon as the Dallas opening title sequence would happen, I'd turn the TV off as fast as I could. Like, no! Or change channels, more like. But
was it Sanford and Son? Was that the show you were watching? Was it something Norman Lear? Was it a Norman Lear production?
It was CBS. I'm going to be...
We can circle back to it.
We can, or somebody who's listening out there, if there's anybody checking out this episode. People listen to this show, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
I'm going to be willing to guess it's probably a Dukes of Hazzard was the lead into Dallas.
Okay.
When I would change the channel as quickly as possible. But still, 144 episodes. That's a gross of episodes.
That is a lot, yeah.
So
I think that's the number of beers in a keg.
So good for you, Scylla. And then, of course, you'd have to mention the Naked Gun series, which she was in all three of those, which, at least the first Naked Gun film, is almost like weaponized comedy. It is so goddamn funny. I can barely stand it.
It's very dense with jokes.
It is, though I don't have a bad thing to say about any of the Naked Gun films. And then, of course, she was also, if not the female lead, a prominent role in the Andrew Dice Clay movie, The Adventures of Ford Fairlane.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot that she was in that.
A film that stars also not only Andrew Dice Clay, but also Wayne Newton, Robert Englund of the Freddy Krueger franchise, and also Morris Day is in that film.
Morris Day. Those are actually some pretty impressive credits. And then I think there for a little bit, back in the late 70s, early 80s, I think that it was uncredited, but I think she was also in Momenschance. Do you remember that at all? Do you remember Momenschance?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You don't remember that? That's where they dress up in the all black, and then they had like mouths that were like toilet paper rolls and like pull on them and stuff. And it was all silent. Okay, maybe.
That's a deep cut right there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we may have just lost a lot of listenership.
If you could track it, you could just see people just... That was the equivalent of the opening credits of Dallas for a lot of people.
Pretty much, yeah. Everybody's like, Momenschance. Nope.
Right.
But here's the thing. You can't prove that she wasn't. That should have been a Would You Believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Really I may have been able to pull that off on you. Because she was doing dance stuff and whatnot back in the day. No, I think they were German. Sure. I don't know. I remember so little of that time.
Sure.
Because the cocaine was so good back then.
So, anyway, after The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, there is a sharp decline in Priscilla Presley's screen appearances after that. Basically the 90s, where she was in several one-off TV episodes throughout the 90s, usually playing herself. Kind of like a sitcom where it's like, blah, 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 who do you think you are, Priscilla Presley? And then she walks in, and then the studio audience, does a big pop, wah!
Right.
Shit like that. And then nothing until just recently, a series of movies made for the Hallmark Channel, a budding franchise. There's a movie called A Wedding at Graceland, followed by a sequel, or maybe a
Divorce at Graceland?
Christmas at Graceland.
Oh, okay.
Was the second one, right.
Okay, well, I've got an idea for what's called Divorce at Graceland, so they need a third in the series.
And which is wild because by having Priscilla Presley's involvement, that both of these films film exclusively inside the house.
And how have we not seen these? We should watch one of those and do it for the show.
We should. Wedding at Graceland co-stars, if any of you listeners out there are American Idol fans, the female lead is Kelly Pickler from, I don't remember which season of American Idol. But
I don't either. Early, though. It was really early on.
Yeah, within the first 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
I forget exactly when I stopped watching American Idol. It just got too commercial, man.
Yeah, that's it. That's what happened. What would be great is if the Wedding at Graceland was sort of like a father of the bride sort of thing. And then they had the Martin Short character, which was his name, Franck or something? In the Father
I
of the
never
Bride?
saw any of those movies. I don't know.
Well, you're no good to me then.
Sure. God damn it.
Yeah, well, then I guess we'll just drop that then. I was just trying to get a Martin Short reference in here, but...
I've seen Martin Short in trailers for those films, but yeah.
Okay. For some reason, those Hallmark movies were not on my radar. But now they are. They certainly are now. Now I know what I'm doing. Just gonna get a big tub of popcorn and hang out. You want to come over? We'll come over after this and just watch one?
Sure, I'll hop on a flight. I could be there in 8 hours.
It's perfect. You got it. How far away do I live? In 8 hours? Jesus.
Well, not an 8-hour flight.
Oh, you're saying, by the time you get there, you don't have to make the popcorn.
Right.
I'll make it here. You don't have to make it and then travel with it.
Sure.
Because you might have to check that. And then
get on a plane
those
with
baggage guys.
It wouldn't be the worst thing I've seen somebody carry onto an airplane, like an enormous bag of popcorn.
No, I think the worst would be Thai food. Because that's just saying, like, everybody's just going to hate me.
Yeah, I saw somebody bring like a bunch of Captain D's onto a plane one time.
Like enough for sharing, or is like just...
Oh, no.
Okay.
I wouldn't be bitching about it if he gave me a hush puppy.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you bring on that much, I think you should be obligated to bring on maybe 100 or so hush puppies with you.
Yeah, 100 hush puppies. Like, what's that going to cost? Like $30?
If that. Or just the cracklins. You know, how they used to give that away at whatever that place was, Long John Silver's.
Right.
You just get the cracklins. Yeah,
just fried rice flour. That's all that shit is.
It's good, though. It's good for you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Were we talking about Agent Elvis? What are we talking about?
No, you were talking. So you somehow got on to the IMDb page of Priscilla Presley. I just didn't have the heart to derail you, but it's good to know. I'm glad we now know a little bit more about the career of Priscilla Presley.
I guess like the premise being like, where was she in her career that she thought like, oh, I'm going to return to acting, but like voice acting?
Well, I think that she probably wanted to pursue this vehicle, which was Agent Elvis. And once again, I think on paper, this sounds like a great idea. Executed poorly, but it has all the earmarks of being like a pretty good show. Because I think even if you said, hey, Elvis, we want to make a cartoon about you where you play like a secret agent and you're a musician by day, an actor by day, you're a family man, but then you go on these crazy adventures and you solve mysteries and you have like an arch nemesis and all these things, he would have said sold. Whatever you want to need to do, absolutely do that. And then, yeah, for some reason, it's just a little flat. But I think maybe just to give it some gravitas or something, I don't know. I'm not sure why she decided she needed to be in it, but I mean, why not? I mean, if you're already a producer on the show, why not lend your voice? And it's not like she's the main character or anything in it. She's just a couple of lines here and there. It's like, I'll do it.
Yeah. I don't know. Ultimately about this show, what rubs me the wrong way, it's not the look of the show is fine. It's the animation is fine. Courtesy of like Sony Animation, as I understand, the same team that put together all that like Spider-Verse crap that was in theaters that the kids like. I don't know. I haven't seen any of that stuff.
Really? Oh, I think those are fun. I mean, those are just animated web-slinging cartoons. I think they're all fine. I got nothing against them.
Yeah, I'll catch up with that stuff when my boys are old enough to like give a shit about it. But
there you go.
I'm certainly not going to like on my own watch that stuff. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's just this endless thought that Elvis needs to be repackaged for subsequent generations, which I guess he does, because I guess like they have to keep attendance up at Graceland. Album sales are not really like a concern anymore, but like streams and stuff, got to keep those numbers up. And if you're not constantly updating Elvis, he kind of becomes one of those pop cultural figures like Marilyn Monroe or like James Dean or like Humphrey Bogart, which, people know who they are, but like how much money does the like Humphrey Bogart estate generate every year?
It's, I saw this, I think it's 8 cartons of Chesterfields.
Sure.
Chesterfield Kings. No,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how much that stuff generates. What we both kind of know is the idea of doing something like this is to get people to come to Graceland. Ultimately, that's what you're trying to do. Get a new generation of fans, and maybe they'll discover some more stuff. Maybe they'll pick up a copy of Elvis What Happened. They're like, wow, this is even crazier than the show we were watching as kids. But then they'll go to Graceland, and that will keep the place open and all that stuff, and money flowing into the coffers.
Sure, because I mean, whatever, like I would love to go back to Graceland. It's been a very long time since I've been there, but like I'm trying to imagine the appeal of going there to like a casual Elvis fan, because everything surrounding Graceland, not a super great neighborhood. And I don't necessarily mean like crime-ridden or like dangerous, but just kind of like a bunch of trashy strip malls surrounding it for like miles in every direction. And Graceland is just a pretty normal-sized house. Of course, I've not been to the new complex across the street, which takes the place of the old complex, which was, fairly modest, all things considered. A couple of shops, like a cafe, a couple of small museums, like the car museum and a couple other things. But now it's like this huge complex with like a live music venue and actual full service restaurants and all that kind of crap. I mean, you have to keep the interest up. You got to keep like people continuing to show up. I'm willing to bet that the actual house and the tours and the whole package is the largest revenue generator for Elvis Presley Enterprises right now.
Probably, yeah.
Because it's not album sales. It's not DVD sales. It's not Blu-ray sales. It's the tour package.
Beta? Is it beta? What are the beta sales?
On the secondary market, like you get like a sealed beta of Paradise Hawaiian style and then basically name your price.
We also talked about this a little bit before we started recording, is that as much as I'm not a big fan of this, there are so many movies that missed the mark with him too, as he's this prepackaged thing, and they're just boring, same run-of-the-mill sort of character plot lines, that kind of stuff. This just feels like a continuation of that, right? Where it's like, they kind of missed the mark a little bit. Like, they could have done something, and you never know. They might get it together. If there is a second season, they might get it together. They have such a great cast. It's just really unfortunate because, like Don Cheadle is in there. He might be one of my favorite characters on it. I remember liking him quite a bit. I really want to like Caitlin Olsen, who is in it. She plays Cece Ryder. Niecy Nash is in. I mean, there's Johnny Knoxville. I'm neither here nor there about. No offense, Johnny Knoxville, but there are all these great elements, and for some reason, it just plays really flat, which is just unfortunate.
Writing on the show is like kind of what passes for good writing to like dumb people these days. It's always like with throwaway jokes that later become like callbacks towards the end of the episode, and everyone's like, oh, it's like really cleverly written, and it's like referencing something that you said in the first like 5 minutes of the show, like 20 minutes in, isn't like clever writing. Like I hated the show at first sight, and it just kept getting worse. And then I got halfway through the 6th episode, and I know we were originally going to like review the entire first season, and I'm like, I just can't. I can't. I'm tapping out.
Were we always going to do the entire? I didn't know. I didn't know we were going to do that. It's a lot of cartoon to watch and then put into one show. I kind of always thought it was going to be like a two-parter, but yeah, I mean, I think we figured out what we needed to figure out about it. I don't know. I guess maybe if we really enjoyed it quite a bit, we may have just jumped in and done the entire season. To go back to the Baz Luhrmann, who actually he makes an appearance in the cartoon as well.
Yeah, weird, right?
So kind of strange, but I think all these things were kind of happening at the same time. These projects are being developed. So they're like, hey, do you want to do a voice? And he's like, sure thing. In an Australian accent, but I'm not going to do that. But the Elvis movie came out, and it's not bad, but it's not great. And we're not going to get another Elvis movie for a very long time. I highly doubt there's going to be, unless you and myself and Pat and Brad over at the Elvis Book Club decide we want to try and make our version of like some sort of cartoon. I don't think there's going to be another Elvis cartoon for a very long time. So this is just going to be what it is. And once again, I think what we've kind of figured out over the course of doing this show is that what we really like, and I mentioned it earlier, is the music that he did from like the late 60s to the early 70s. It was about 68 to about 73-ish. Like, that's kind of the real sweet spot. And that's what I really like about Elvis and his music. So it's the music part of it that I like. And the other stuff is just interesting to talk about because that's what we're doing here. But a lot of it's, unfortunately, not that great. Some of the music early on is very good. There are a couple movies that I think are definitely watchable and rewatchable, but a lot of them are just forgettable. And unfortunately, right now, I think this cartoon is kind of forgettable and shockingly so when you see everybody that's on it. I mean, like I said, we mentioned Chris Elliott, who I think is great. Fred Armisen, who played Charles Manson in it. Baz Luhrmann is in. It's all these people. Ed Helms is the voice of Robert Goulet. I mean, there's so many people. They got Ronnie Tutt to play himself in it. And I'm missing a lot of other really talented people. So Tom Kenny.
Doing the quote-unquote voice of Scatter. But Ronnie Tutt, one of the last things he ever did was a voice on that show. Kind of sad.
It might have been the thing that killed him.
Yeah.
I would hate to say that, but just to speculate.
Sure.
But
My main problem with the show is that Elvis, as a singer, as a performer, probably his greatest strength, or top 3 of his greatest strengths, is his ability to convey sincerity. And it's something that he never really lost, even when he was doing 250 shows a year in the 70s, So, like, you would think, like, oh, he's going to get, like, burnt out on this stuff. And there's by no means, like, a comprehensive archive of, like, all the shows he's ever done. And then it may very well be true he did a lot of shows where he wasn't feeling it. But the albums, the live albums, that guy is feeling that shit. And you got a show like Agent Elvis, and there is not an honest bone in its body. It's all trading in sarcasm and fake edgelord bullshit. And it's just this kind of like modern irony thing that I guess the kids like, or at least Priscilla thinks the kids like. To me, it's just, I don't know, repellent.
So that's your final word on it. Like I said, I think I'm not as down on it as you are. I don't think it's a great cartoon. But once again, I think it's surprisingly not a great cartoon. I think there are a lot of elements that maybe I'm just like pulling for it. I really want it to be good. But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate it's not better than it is. And I think that's just, maybe you're right. Maybe it's just lazy writing, or maybe they were trying to have too much fun with it, or just change the idea of Elvis to something else, or they just didn't care enough about it. But yeah, it seems like there's no center to it.
Right. Or just like maybe they sensed that there was a desire for like some sort of Elvis project to show us like the real deal, because Elvis was like very involved in like guns and drugs and aberrant behavior. So they made a show where they have all that stuff, but it's not Elvis who's doing it. It's like the monkey or like other people. Of course, Elvis is like wielding guns and whatnot, but still remains like, for all the Elvis fans that are out there, who just insist that Elvis is nothing more than like good singer, loved his mama, loved his country, blah, blah, blah. That shit that people just like really need that for some reason, and just can't stand the thought of Elvis being not the perfect person. And this show, same deal. It's like, yeah, Elvis is fighting crime, and he's using a lot of, 4-letter words and whatnot, and killing people and whatnot, but for the good of the nation and all that. And I don't know. Oh, I have another positive thing to say about the show.
What's that?
That episode where they go to Altamont.
Yeah.
And there's a sequence where Jefferson Airplane are playing, and the Jefferson Airplane bassist Jack Cassidy is playing exactly the Jack Cassidy bass. They obviously got like photo reference, and they're like, yeah, let's adapt this to animation. It's not a made up guitar or anything like that. It's like, oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, there it is, the Jack Cassidy bass.
And I will say, when he's playing guitar in I think it's the first episode where he's doing stuff for the 68 special, he's playing the period correct guitar, the Hagstrom.
Yeah, the red Hagstrom hollow body.
Yeah. They do kind of adhere to some of the stuff that happens. And like we said, like the Stutz Blackhawk, that sort of stuff, that's really the car. That was his favorite car. I mean, he drove it. It was the last car he ever drove because he loved it. I'm assuming he only drove it back and forth to the gas station because it only got about 4 miles to the gallon, but
sure,
that's what he drove. 70s. That's all he had. So I think that's kind of our take on Agent Elvis.
Well, that said, I think it's time for the Wade-Back Machine.
All right. I love this segment. I love the Wade-Back Machine. What do you got in the Wade-Back Machine for us tonight?
Tonight on the Wade-Back Machine, we go all the way back to 1975.
Ooh, that's a good year.
It is. To cover a story that has been making the rounds on the internet, shared by none other than Billy Stanley, who is, of course, Elvis's stepbrother, I guess?
Yeah, I guess step-sibling, Yeah,
it's Dee Stanley's kid. So when Vernon Presley married Dee Stanley, Billy Stanley became his stepbrother. So sure, yeah.
Yeah, stepbrothers.
That's what they are. Anyway, as the story goes, Billy Stanley is in the basement of Graceland, which I guess the TV room Or is there a sub-level to Graceland that we don't know about?
Now, this was not revealed, so I think it has to be in one of the rooms. Probably not the pool room. So you're gonna have to think it's probably in the TV room.
I'm guessing it's a TV room because I'm pretty sure there was like a turntable set up in there. Anyway, the story goes Billy Stanley had a young lady in the basement, and he was playing an album that's held in high esteem by myself and you too, Burl. Kiss Alive.
Ooh. Yeah,
the 1975 live album put out by Kiss. Mm-hmm. So Elvis walks in and hears him playing that, and Elvis is like, what is this? What is going on? And Billy Stanley shows him the album cover. It says the band's called Kiss, and apparently he says, okay, and then sits down on the couch looking at the album cover and says, oh, okay, I get it. And he came in during the song Let Me Go, Rock and Roll, which is pretty far into the album. So Billy Stanley had been down there a while with the young lady listening to Kiss. And according to the story, Elvis wanted to hear the song multiple times and then had this assessment to make that it's 50s rock and roll sound brought into the 70s. He praised Ace Frehley, saying that the guy's got X-rated guitar licks, and left the room saying that, I get it, it's 3 chords and a cloud of dust, and that's how you do it. You leave them wanting more. So basically, yeah, the story's been making the rounds, something that Billy Stanley said, to which I am going to say that the story is 100% bullshit.
I agree with you. And I'm going to say this right here. I think he would have looked at the album cover, seen that the lead singer's name was Paul Stanley, and just the fact that he hated Dee so much, he would have not liked the band just based simply on that. I think it would have been that quick to judge it. I don't think he would have disliked or liked the band that much. I think he would have been fine with them or whatever. But just the fact that he would just play that one again for me and play that one again for me. There's like too many specifics. Like if he had just said, hey, one time I was listening to Kiss and he came down and he actually seemed to like it, I would believe that story. But there's too many details, and just the fact that he remembered that one song. But there's just too many details about it. And I just feel like that for some reason that just makes it seem very false to me.
My first thought is that, I have no doubt Billy Stanley hanging around the house using the record player, but I would think that if Elvis came down to the TV room and you were playing a record, that you would immediately take the needle off the record and clear out as quickly as possible. Like Elvis coming down the stairs. Because, he's like, I'm going to watch football. Get the hell out of here. Or I'm going to listen to my own records. The thought that he would have listened to anything that Billy Stanley wanted to listen to is just like absolutely insane. And Billy Stanley knew the man, and you would think that he would know enough not to lie about that kind of crap. I do also think that Elvis, just looking at Gene Simmons on the cover of Kiss Alive, would have been like, nope, I'm not having this shit in my house. Another
story I would believe is if he had said that Elvis came down and then seduced the girl that he had down there.
Right.
In front of him.
It's like Billy Stanley, you're about 16 years old. Your girl's roughly the same age. It's pretty much my speed. Why don't you hit the bricks?
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, it reminds me of a young lady I met in Germany a little bit. Right. And then the rest is just history. I don't want to go into too much, but I could just imagine him coming in those like navy blue pajamas, glasses on and the robe, and gun in the pocket.
Right.
Just hanging out listening to Kiss for a little bit. It's plausible he would have heard the band down there, but yeah, I don't think he would have taken much interest in it at all.
Or had anything positive to say about him.
Yeah, not at all.
Though I guess I do, in some part of my brain, believe that Elvis would have liked Ace Frehley.
Yeah, I think he was a fan of riffs, licks, all that kind of stuff. Any sort of bendy guitar sounds. Right. I'm sure that, he would have found elements of it that he liked, but I don't think he would have spent much time. I mean, I can't seem hey man, that Hard Luck Woman song, that'd be nice to cover.
To me, I think this is just Billy Stanley, his ploy to maybe get booked as a guest on the Kiss cruise or something. I don't know.
Maybe something. Although, what's the track listing on that? I'm trying to think what on Kiss Alive.
Deuce, Strutter.
Yeah.
Got to Choose. I don't even have to look it up.
Okay. Well, maybe you do. Maybe you're just for that. You
Firehouse, Hotter Than Hell?
Okay.
Or does it go Hotter Than Hell than Firehouse?
I would have to check my back tattoo, but I don't have a mirror.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like if he would have heard a song and that he would have really been able to sink his teeth into. Like he would have said, that's a good one for my live show. But at that time, I don't think he would have done that. I don't know, because they were kind of contemporary, big-ish stadium act. He probably played venues around the time that they would have been playing them, too. So I'm sure he would have known who they were, but...
Well, that's just what I'm saying. I mean, there was, like, Kiss playing, like, the big venues from Destroyer on. So really, there was maybe only, like, about a year or maybe a year and a half that Kiss and Elvis were, like, playing the same venues. Destroyer was, like, a big record for them. When are we starting our spin-off Kiss podcast?
I don't know. Feels like we just did. Well, that brings us to our next segment, your favorite segment of the show.
Uh-oh.
Which is Would You Believe?
Sure.
Would you believe we have a new sponsor?
Oh, good.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about them.
Sure.
All right. Well, this place is called Danglers, the male pubic barbershop. Do you need some maintenance south of the border? Try Danglers. Our expert staff will style your package in any style of your choosing. Just a trim? No problem. Going for something dramatic? You're in the right hands. They also offer great coverage and gum removal. That's Danglers Pubic Barbershop between Mr. Bulky and Jimmy John's in Twin Pines Mall. That's a sponsor for our Hirsute listeners. So,
oh, sure. Yeah.
There you go. Excellent. So, thank you, Danglers, for sponsoring this segment of Would You Believe?
Much love, Danglers.
Yeah, much love. We'll both be visiting you soon, but on separate days.
Sure.
Per our restraining order.
Sure.
So, Agent Elvis went through some casting decisions they had to make.
Okay.
And originally, the part of Elvis was cast with a gentleman named Jeff Bennett, who was the voice of Johnny Bravo on the show Johnny Bravo. But Priscilla decided that she didn't like it, that it was a little too like hokey, and she wanted more of a marquee name. Would you believe?
Like all of your Would You Believes, this one is completely plausible. And I'm just going to go ahead and say I do believe that.
Nope, that is false. I made that up.
God damn it.
Yeah. All right, so we were talking about John Eddy earlier on, who was the gentleman who created Agent Elvis, or one of the creators, I guess, but it's kind of his idea. Anyway, would you believe that John Eddy was the opening act for not one, but for both of Lisa Marie's solo tours? Would you believe?
I am going to say no, I do not believe that.
That is absolutely true. That's how he met them. When he met Priscilla, he pitched her that idea. Like, oh, I don't know which tour.
These.
Yeah, you really are. You should really, read some Wikipedia pages.
Yeah, so, Lisa Marie trying to position herself as, something new and fresh. And here's this husky gentleman from 1986 singing Jungle Boy.
It's really odd. I don't know. But he was the opening act. Yeah, he was the opening act for Lisa Marie. All right.
Well, it's starting to make sense now. All right.
Yeah, right. All right. So we kind of already talked about John Eddy and his kind of connection with Springsteen. So John Eddy's name appears in the Born in the USA video on a letterboard in a club for upcoming performers. Would you believe?
Yes.
That's true. It's right at the end. I went and looked it up. That's actually on his Wikipedia page. That's his big claim to fame. But it's right at the end, and it's literally blink and you miss it. And I'd go back and rewatch, what are they talking about? And it's literally just a little letterboard. It's upcoming shows in November. And it's John Eddy. You couldn't have put him on a marquee or anything. Nah, just real tiny, small, fine print. There you go, John.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. You could have done anything, and then you decided to do that. So, that's 3 of them. We got a couple more to go here.
Okay.
All right. So, would you believe that in episode 1 of Agent Elvis, that Scatter the Chimp kills Tex, so it's Charles Tex Watson is the guy's name, and it's a character that was played in the Tarantino movie by Austin Butler, who then was also playing Elvis kind of around the same time that this was all being put together. Would you believe?
I'm going to say no because it's too believable.
Yeah, that's right. I made that up. But here's the thing. He might have, but like I couldn't figure out like which person was Tex. But I think that they brought up Tex. It's a maybe, but I went back and rewatched a couple of times. So, would you believe that Birdie, the character of Birdie, who is played by Niecy Nash, is based on one of Graceland's cooks, Nancy Given, who worked at Graceland from 1967 to 1982.
I'm going to say I do not believe that.
Yeah, that's right. That's also false.
Sure.
There you go. All right.
So I'm 2 for 4?
You're 3, 4, 5 right now. So you're actually doing pretty good.
Okay.
You had a
All right.
slow start. Like you really
Yeah.
messed up that start. Out of the gate, you were horrible. It looked like this is going all downhill. And you really turned it around in the second half of the series here. So, would you believe that Caitlin Olsen, who plays the character Cece Ryder, is the cousin of Mary Kate and Ashley and Elizabeth Olsen? Would you believe?
I'm going to say yes. I do believe that.
No, that's false. And here's the thing. They don't even spell their names the same. So, Caitlin has 2 O's. And Mary Kate, Ashley, and Elizabeth, there are no O's in the name. It's just the L has an umlaut over it. Olsen.
I'll be a
That is not how they
monkey's
spell
uncle.
it. They spell with an O.
Right.
It is an O. I
Right.
made that up. And then finally, getting back to John Eddy. John Eddy was sued over the name of the song Jungle Boy by none other than Morris Day, because it was like an interpolation of Jungle Love. Would you believe?
I'm going to say no. I don't believe that.
Yeah, you got that one. So,
Sure.
yeah, and I literally just threw that one in there because you mentioned Morris Day earlier, and I jotted it down really quick. But
Sure.
yeah, so I probably could have worded that a little bit better, put it together. But I was also trying to co-host a show, so I can only do so much. On the fly.
Right.
So-
That's true. So that would have been awkward, with Priscilla working with Morris Day on the set of Adventures of Ford Fairlane,
Right. It would have been weird. But then I don't know if she would have known John Eddy at the time. That might have predated Lisa Marie's solo albums, so she might not have met him later. But then she could have talked to him later on. It's like, oh man, I need some legal advice. Because I think at one point, Priscilla dated the patriarch of the Kardashian family briefly.
Wow, I did not know that. I thought for a second there you were going to say she dated Morris Day for a while.
No, it's a weird thing because she dated Kardashian and then Bruce Jenner was married to Linda Thompson.
Whoa, he was? Is this a would you believe?
No, that's right. Wasn't that his first wife?
Elvis's ex, Linda Thompson, was married to Bruce Jenner. I almost said John Ritter.
Would you believe that John Ritter and Bruce Jenner dated?
I kind of would believe that.
Linda Thompson, married from 81 to 86.
Wild.
Yep. So that wraps up Would You Believe. You did pretty good. I think you got 4 out of 7. So that's actually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Over 50%, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Not too bad. So, man, it's too bad we don't like that Agent Elvis more. But what can you do?
Yeah, it's fine. There's so much Elvis media out there. I'm already a fan. I mean, there's books I haven't read, songs I haven't heard, movies I haven't really sat down and paid full attention to. I'm not hurting for like new Elvis stuff. The only way that I would be invested in something like this is if I was like worried about young people getting into Elvis, which I'm not really at all. Young people got their own stuff.
They certainly do. They have plenty of stuff to do. We shouldn't worry about it. Well, I guess that kind of wraps it up. We should mention a few things. First of all, I know we mentioned them already in the show a couple of times, but if you haven't already, go check out Elvis Book Club with Pat and Brad. They're doing great stuff over there. We always eagerly await them putting out new episodes, so hopefully there are more coming soon. And if you would want to get in touch with us for whatever reason, you can reach us at suspiciousmindspodcast77@gmail.com. You can drop us a line there, or if you'd like, you can get on with the Suspicious Minds hotline, and the number there is 773 389-4276, and you can leave us a voicemail. We might use it on the show. You can send us a text message. You can just call and hang up. I don't know. Do what you do. But that's the number there. Where else can they find us on the social media there, Wade?
Well, if you're interested in that Facebook stuff, if you're a person of a certain age and still on Facebook, we're at Suspicious Minds Podcast with Wade and Burl. Not a whole lot going on Facebook. I should change that. I should start making some exciting things happening. But, there's basically links to episodes and photos and fun stuff. But, the real party is on Instagram, where we are at Suspicious Minds Podcast is our handle. And tons of followers, tons of fun stuff going on. I did this experiment last month where I posted a new thing every day at the same time to see if I would be able to boost numbers that way. Didn't really happen. I don't understand the algorithms. But still, there's a deep well of fun stuff to look at there. And we're really good with engaging with the fans. If they got any questions, we're always quick to answer. So check us out there. We should get a Twitter. Should we get a Twitter?
I don't think so. I think it's weird over there right now. We'll wait for it to all calm down. Then we'll consider it. Maybe we'll just get a snail mail account. Maybe we'll go to a P.O. box.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah. It's a place people can send us stickers or patches to put on our denim jackets.
Yeah. We should have stickers. It's high time we had stickers.
We should get some merch. Buttons and that kind of stuff.
Oh, buttons would be easy. Actually, we'll ask the viewers. Oh my God, you can't actually see me, can you?
Yeah, well,
I'd be mortified.
Yeah, I've been meaning to tell you, your makeup jobs have been horrible the past
all this time.
All this time, yeah.
All right.
Just a little rouge would help.
Yeah,
it would go a long way to help you.
I'll start doing the show wearing a shirt. But yeah, listeners, I meant to say. You tell us, what kind of merch would you like to see from Suspicious Minds? Stickers, buttons, T-shirts perhaps, ball caps, tote bags?
Anything with crystals. Should we get some crystals? Yeah.
Ballpoint pens?
Coffee mugs. Coffee mug
would be a good one. Frisbee,
koozies.
Sure.
I would do all those. Dugouts.
Maybe one of those little collapsible cups that Letterman used to have on.
Coke mirrors, something like that.
Coke mirrors, yeah.
Yeah, sponges.
Sponges.
Embossed with our visages. I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff. But we'll look into it and we'll put together like an Etsy or something.
Medallions.
Ooh, that'd be nice. Yeah. There we go.
Lacy anklets.
Any and all of the above. Robes, just a really nice terry cloth robe with the logo on the back. Oh yeah,
sure.
I'd get one
faces,
of those.
Right?
Why not? Let's put our faces on something. All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up then. I would say go check out that cartoon, but if you don't feel like it, I wouldn't blame you either. So,
and I'm going to say you have better things to do than to watch this show, Agent Elvis.
Right.
Like listening to us or listening to Elvis Book Club with Pat and Brad.
Either one of those or all of those things are better. Go back and listen to an old episode of our show and then go back to a time when that cartoon didn't exist. That's it. I think that wraps it up. So I've been Burl.
And I'm always Wade.
All right. And we'll catch you next time.
Stay frosty.
All right.
Thank you. Good night.